What's going on YouTube? Back with another video today. In today's video we are installing a line lock kit on the Lightning. For those of you that don't know what a line lock kit is, basically this is a kit that when you push a button it will allow you to lock the front brakes up, leaving the rear unlocked so you can do a nice burnout, whether you're warming up the tires, want to do big smoky burnout, whatever the case. This basically locks the front brakes and allows the rear wheels to spin. So we're gonna be installing one of those today on the truck. Compliments of JJ at Woodbine Motorsports. This video is officially sponsored by JJ, and he offers this line lock kit that is pretty much plug and play. I'll leave a link in the description to where you can get the kit on his website. And don't forget to also check out all the other parts he offers. He offers all kinds of parts for our trucks and all kinds of services as well. So I'll leave a link in the description to the kit. Go check him out. Check out what he can do for your truck, because this video is officially sponsored by JJ. We're gonna be installing his kit today, going over how to do everything, full detailed install. So let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so this is everything the kit comes with right here. It comes with his instructions that he gives you, as well as the manufacturer instructions, wiring diagrams, and all that stuff. So we'll be following his instructions here. And it comes with the solenoid, his custom little bracket here. It's really nice. You don't have to go messing with any homemade brackets. It gives you the aluminum bracket that's powder coated black. The nut and washer for mounting that. A custom bent brake line with the fittings you need. Inline fuse, so when you pull the power you can have a fuse in line just in case. A switch to activate it, and then a little indicator light that when you press the switch, whether it's on or off, this will be on to let you know that the line lock is activated. Some things you're going to need to pick up. That's the kit. That's what it comes with. You'll need some 18 gauge wire, some various connectors depending how you're going to connect your wiring, just a pair of wire strippers and crimpers, and then some zip ties for when you're running your wire. You want to keep it all nice and tidy. I picked up some high temp thread sealant for the fittings here, for the threads, that way we don't have any leaks. That's the stuff you're going to need in order to complete the install. Now, whether you want to solder your connections is completely up to you. Not everyone will be comfortable doing soldering. I understand that. You can get away with crimp connecting. However you want to do your wiring, it's completely up to you. I am going to be soldering and heat shrink wrapping all my connections because that's just what I like to do. And I'm also trying to get better at it. I'm not the greatest, but I'm getting more comfortable as I do it, so that's what I'm going to be doing. Some things I'm going to be changing up a little bit. You don't have to do this. I'll go over both ways to do it. I'll do it the way he gives it, but I'm going to be switching it up because I bought my own switch. I like these switches a little better, and this switch also has the LED indicator for when it's on or off, so that will eliminate the need for this guy altogether. So I won't need either of these two because this is going to replace it. And I'll be able to mount this a little cleaner as well because I wasn't sure how I was going to mount that. So I just went ahead and got this switch. I like these a little better. It's just personal preference. Nothing wrong with what he supplied. It's just what I like. And then for pulling the power to power everything, I got one of these ADA circuits, and basically you plug this into whatever fuse you want to pull power from. Put the fuse back in there. It also provides a fuse to the circuit you're adding as well, so that also will eliminate the need for this guy. So that's how I'm going to do it. You don't have to do it that way. It's just what I prefer, but I'll go over everything when we get into it. So let's go ahead and get into this install. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the instructions. It says to mount the line lock assembly bracket onto the master cylinder / brake booster using supplied nut and washer. Install ground strap onto the stud at this time, either before or after installing the bracket. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the assembly here, and I'm going to show you where it goes. It's going to slide right over this stud on the master cylinder right there. You can see how that slides right over the stud. You may have to tweak this brake line a little bit to get it to kind of fit in there, but that's how it's going to go. And then you're going to put your ground strap on, your washer, and your nut. But before we get carried away and put that on, what you may want to do first, and this depends on how you're going to do your wiring, is I am going to go ahead and solder my power wire first. Basically you want to extend this wire because right after we mount this, we're going to be running that wire through the firewall grommet right there. You can see where the boost line goes in. It's right next to the big master cylinder there. There's a grommet where you can run the wire through, and it'll be a little easier to solder this thing while it's on a table and not in the engine bay where you're having to struggle to get to things. So that's what we're going to do first thing. We're going to go ahead and solder a long piece of wire onto this one. That way it's easier done out of the truck. We're not having to struggle to get to things and hold things up and all that stuff. So we're going to extend this wire first, then we'll get to mounting this and doing the rest of the line install as far as that goes, and then we'll jump back to wiring. But let's go ahead and extend this wire first, and then we can mount our bracket. Okay, now I'm not going to go too far into detail on soldering, mostly because I really don't know what I'm talking about, honestly, because I've only done it a handful of times and I'm still learning myself. But what I like to do is I did this thing with these jars, and then these are like the clips from a hanger, and what this does is it helps hold the wire while you're doing the soldering. It's kind of like a pair of helping hands. They actually sell something just for this, but I couldn't find it local, so this is what I came up with. This kind of helps hold the wire while you're doing your soldering. You strip both ends of the wire, and what I like to do is fray them out, kind of stick them into each other, and then twist. That way they become one little, you can see how it like joined it. It's like one piece there. Then you're going to take your soldering gun, pull the trigger until it gets hot, set that underneath the wire. You want to heat the wire from the bottom, and then apply your solder into the top of the wire. That way the heat's coming from the bottom, it heats up the wire, and the solder melts down and works its way into the wire, and that's how you're going to want to solder it. And then of course you want to slide your piece of heat shrink tubing on there first. That way when you're done soldering, you can slide your heat shrink and seal the connection. But that's pretty much it. I didn't want to get too much into detail on this, mostly because I'm a rookie myself and I'm still learning. There's a lot of information out there. I'll put a link in the description to a ChrisFix tutorial on how to solder, and that's pretty much what I'm going by. And we're going to go ahead and get to soldering. Alright, so after a little trial and error, we got a good soldering connection. You can see it there. Basically, apply the heat, like I said, from the bottom, put the solder in at the top, and it should work its way through the entire connection. And you want to cover it until there is no more wire showing. So you got a complete soldered connection. Now we're going to slide a piece of heat shrink tubing that barely fits over the wire, kind of fits, you know, the snuggest. Slide it over that connection, heat it up with a lighter, and that is sealed. So that's how you're going to want to extend your wire. And now that the wire is extended, we're going to get the heat shrink on there and mount the solenoid. Okay, so now that we extended our power wire, like we showed you, I went ahead and installed the bracket on the stud that we talked about before. Now I decided to run my ground wire behind the bracket and put it on first. So I put the ground wire on, then I slid the bracket over the stud, and then you want to use the spring washer and nut. Tighten it down pretty good. You'll see there, it's pretty tight. And now we're going to run our power wire through the grommet. I don't know if you guys can see it there, but right there where the boost line goes through the firewall, you can kind of tuck the wire right in beside that and run it through this grommet and bring it into the cab. I'm going to bring the wire into the cab, and that grommet is going to be, you can see it. Get the light up there for you guys. Right there. See where the boost line and the red wire is coming through? That is where we're going to run it through. And for now, we're just going to run it into the cab and then forget about it while we hook up the hydraulic lines and get all that situated. And then we'll come back into the cab and do our wiring and our switch and everything like that. So, okay, so we got the power wire pulled into the cab. As you can see, we got a lot of extra. That's what you want. Now we're going to forget about that for the time being and work on getting the brake line fittings all hooked up. Now this is pretty easy, and according to the instructions, we are going to remove the front line on the master cylinder, twist the line, and remount onto the lower line lock solenoid fitting. So basically this line here, it's the thicker of the two and the one towards the front of the cab. You want to undo this and mount it to the bottom fitting on your solenoid there. We can use a little high temp thread sealant for that and a 5/8 wrench. You also probably want a towel. That's why I have this towel here. I'm going to tuck this underneath the fitting there. That way anything that might leak will go into the towel, not all over my engine bay. So we're going to undo this fitting here towards the front of the master cylinder. This is for the front brakes. We're going to twist the line and mount it to the bottom fitting of the solenoid. Okay, so now that we got that nice and tight, this front line attached to the bottom of the solenoid, tightened everything up. You can see how we just kind of had to loop it. Just gotta kind of play with it and you'll get it to where there's the least amount of kinks and it should be fine. Now we're gonna grab his pre-supplied bent line, and this is gonna go from the top of the solenoid there into where we just removed the other line from. So you can see how that's going to go there. You may have to do a little bending due to variations on different vehicles. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of thread sealant on each of the threads. We are going to get the small one started first. It's recommended that you start the small one first, get that kind of started and going, and then just tweak this line until it lines up and you can screw that in there as well. These lines are pretty simple and easy to bend. So like I said, get the small side started, do a little bit of bending until this side can start, and then tighten down both of your fittings. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so we got everything mounted. So you can see there, once you got all that together, a little bit of thread sealant, make sure all your fittings are nice and tight, and that's all good to go. We are done with up here until the very end when we have to bleed the brakes. That's one thing I forgot to mention. You will need a little bit of extra brake fluid, and you need to re-bleed the front brakes. Since we opened up the front lines, there's going to be air in there. So we are going to re-bleed the front brakes, but we're going to save that till the end. So everything's done up here. Now it's time to go inside and do our wiring. So we're going to come over here and grab all our stuff that we got. It's going to be for our ground. There's some random connectors. Like I said, this will vary depending on how you're going to do your wiring. If you're going to use connectors, solder, whatever. However you want to do it. And also if you're going to use the switch and stuff he provided, or go with the method we're going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get all this inside the truck and we'll go from there. Okay, so first thing you're going to want to do is decide where you're going to mount your switch. If you're going to use the one he provides, and it's a good switch, he recommends mounting it on the tilt column stock, which is on the left side of the steering wheel. The lever that you use to tilt the steering wheel back, you can slide that rubber thing over that. You can see that mounts there. Of course, you can have it face you if you want, or you can face it this way. However you want to do that. That's where he recommends mounting it, on that stock there. And it's actually a really nice way to mount it, and it's pretty clean. Yeah, it looks pretty good actually. And there's your button there. And then you can run your wire down through that area there. And that's when you're going to run one wire to the wire we fed through the firewall. That's going to hook up to the solenoid up there, of course. And the other wire, you're going to feed it down to your fuse box. And it even says in the instructions to use an ATA circuit for fuse protection, and gives you the Napa part number right there. So you'll use your ATA fuse, pull power from a fuse down here, a keyed on source. We'll get into that in just a second. And you'll run your power from the ATA fuse to one of these wires, and then the other wire to the wire we fed through the firewall. And that's a pretty clean way to do it as well if you're going to use the stuff he provided. An optional thing you can do is you can put the indicator light somewhere if you want, and you would wire the indicator light in line with the wire going to the firewall. That way when power is being fed to that line to the solenoid, it will shine this light indicating that it is on. But that's not really necessary, because with this type of switch here, it's not really an on-off switch, so there's really no chance of leaving it on accident. So not really necessary, but that's an option too if you'd like. And yeah, that's pretty much it for if you're going to hook it up his way. And with the stuff he provides, that's what you're going to do. But we are going a different route and using the switch I picked up. And I think I'm going to mount mine. Let me show you guys. On this piece here that goes around the steering wheel, this piece pops out. And mine's already been drilled for the alarm system, so I don't mind drilling into mine. I think I'm going to mount my switch either above it, below it, somewhere in this piece here. Drill a little hole, put the switch, and that will be where my line lock's located, right? I think that's a good spot. So that's where I'm going to mount mine, right on this piece that goes around the column here. And I'll show you how to pop that out. It literally just pops out. You take a screwdriver, pry it, and it should come loose. And then we will drill a hole for that to go through and mount our switch. The first thing is deciding where you're going to mount your stuff. Like I said, I'm going to go with here. I've seen people mount them up in here for something a little more stealthy, but then you have to run wire all through here and down. That's just too much wiring for me, so we keep it simple. Mount it right here. Of course, you can mount it wherever you want, but basically what we're going to do, use the add circuit, plug that into one of the fuses wherever I'm going to pull power from. We'll decide that in a minute. And then run your wire to the switch, from the switch to the wire we pulled through the firewall, and then I also need to run a ground. But that's essentially it. It's pretty simple. It's not too bad. As far as what fuse we're going to use, I think we're going to go with this fuse here, the 4th 10 down on the right. And that should be a key-on power source. We'll have to test it. We may have to play around with it and kind of swap it around until we find a source that's only powered when the key is on. That's what I'm looking for. Well, this one's already taken, but I think the 4th 10 down on the right is going to be a good one to try. So that's where we're going to put our ATA circuit in. And we're going to use a 5 amp fuse for the circuit we're adding. So the 10 amp will go on the bottom, the 5 amp will go on the top. We'll plug it in there. We're going to have to solder our wire going from the ATA circuit to our switch, and then we'll take the wire we pulled through the firewall, attach that to the switch going out, and then ground the switch, and that should be it. So we're going to go ahead and get to wiring. Okay, so I have my switch installed and everything's ran. I'll show you where we pulled the power from. We used just what I said earlier. We use the 4th 10 down on the right. You can see it right there. This is the ATA circuit. You want to put the circuit that you're tapping from, that fuse, back into the bottom slot, and then the slot you'll see the furthest one away with the wire there is going to be where you put the 5 amp. So we did that. That's our power that's running to the switch on the bottom where it says supply. Our load is the wire that we pulled in from the firewall, and we just pulled that in through the firewall, ran it up, connect that to the load portion of the switch, and then on the top we have to ground the switch since it has the light inside of it, and that just comes down, and I put it right here on this grounding bar. That's our ground. So supply with the ATA circuit, load is the wire we pulled through the firewall that attaches to the solenoid in the engine bay, and then our ground for the switch down to here. And that's it. So wire that up however you feel comfortable. You can solder, you can crimp, whatever you want to do. That's the key on. So you can see, turn the key off and it goes off. So that's the key on source. That's going to be perfect. So everything's wired up. Everything is plumbed up. All the fittings are nice and tight. The only thing left to do is bleed the brakes. Now, I like to do it the old school method, the 2-person method. You have someone sit in the truck, pump the brakes till the pedal's nice and firm, hold it, and then someone on the bleeder screw, crack the bleeder screw, tighten the bleeder screw, and then have the person inside pump the brakes again. Now when you crack the bleeder screw, all the pressure is going to go out of the brakes and the pedal's going to go to the floor. Tell the person inside not to let off that pedal until you can tighten the bleeder screw again, or you're going to let air back in. But I'm not even going to get any further into that. I'm sure everyone here knows how to bleed their brakes. So that's all that's left to do. We're going to bleed the brakes and we're going to try it out. Okay, so the brakes are all bled. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to use it. It's really simple. It's as easy as when you're pulled up to the burnout box, you're ready to do your burnout, hold the brakes down, activate your line lock. You should be able to let off the brake and the truck should not move. The front should be holding the truck and then the back should be able to spin. It's literally that easy. When you're done with your burnout, click it back off and roll forward. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. I put a little bit of water down on the garage floor and we'll see if we get the back tires to spin while it holds us in place. We'll start the truck. Go ahead and put it in drive. I see the truck's moving forward. We'll press the brake down firm. Click on the line lock. Now we should be able to let off and the truck should not move. Perfect. See, now the line lock is holding the truck in place and the rear tires should spin. Perfect. So, works just the way we want it to. Like I said, when you're done, just click it off and the truck will move forward and you're good to go. Awesome. And there you have it. Now you have line lock installed on your truck. You can go do all the big smoky burnouts that you want, whether it's at the track, street, or you just want to set it up and do a burnout. Now you can go do it without having to worry about the extra wear on your rear brakes and components. And it's just an easy install and a good thing to do. Thanks again to JJ for sponsoring this video and for the plug and play line lock kit. If you want one, make sure you go in the description and check it out, along with all the other stuff he offers for our trucks. He offers all kinds of stuff and services, so go check it out. Definitely a worthwhile mod to do. This is going to make doing burnouts much better, and it's just really nice, convenient thing to have on your truck. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Make sure you drop a like on the video if you liked what you saw. Subscribe to the channel for more. It's free. Click it, do it real quick, and support the channel. Plus, you're going to get all kinds of Lightning content and all the future stuff to come. If you haven't seen our videos, make sure you go check them out, and we'll see you in the next one, guys. Later.